Meanwhile, the American Ostrich Association is pushing for testing and quarantine instead of panic. They're calling for policy grounded in biology, not blind obedience. But in Canada, it seems the government's motto is, when in doubt, kill everything. There's a growing body of science that Canada's overreaching health bureaucrats refuse to acknowledge, and it's coming from south of the border. Veterinary experts in the United States, including the American Ostrich Association, have made it clear ratites, so birds like ostriches, can contract the avian flu, but they don't spread it. They don't migrate, they don't fly, and when infected, they recover with what the association calls minimal zoonotic risk. In plain English, they're not a danger to other birds, animals, or even humans. I'm Sheila Gunn Reid reporting from Universal Ostrich Farm, a small family-run operation here in the Kootenays of British Columbia, fighting a court-ordered depopulation of their farm after exposure to avian flu months ago. To see and support our journalism from on the ground here, visit SaveTheOstriches.com. Now, what I just explained to you is not internet folklore. That's from an official letter sent to US Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, urging Washington to finally modernize bird flu policy. In that letter, the association points out that the ostrich's biology and immune response are much more like cattle than poultry, and that the old cull and indemnity model, where governments line up trucks and kill everything with feathers and then compensate the farmers, makes no sense for these long-lived animals. The association reminded Secretary Kennedy that when dairy cattle in the U.S. tested positive for avian flu, the government didn't torch the herds. It used testing and quarantine. The Americans are asking for the same rational approach for ostriches, including these Canadian ones. And here's what they warned. The mandatory culls are an existential threat to small ostrich farms, because when you wipe out birds that take decades to breed, because they can live for 40 years, you're not just killing livestock, you're erasing genetics, livelihoods, and research. Ostriches require a different approach than poultry flocks, which have sometimes an 8-week lifespan. Now, I reached out directly to the American Ostrich Association for their view on what's happening right here in Edgewood, British Columbia. I heard back from the president, Michael Lehman. He told me their association confirmed they're aware of this case and that pressure has been building in the U.S. to raise it with Congress and the Department of Agriculture. He reiterated the organization's position. Ostriches and other ratites are highly resistant to viral transmission and deserves species-specific treatment, not extermination. That science matters because what's unfolding behind me could decide the future of the ostrich industry and animal health policy on both sides of the border. You see behind me are 400 healthy ostriches, alert, active, and apparently virus-free for 260 days. They were exposed to avian flu months ago. They survived. They have never spread it. But instead of learning from that, Ottawa health bureaucrats want these birds dead. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has ordered their destruction. They've built kill pens nearby, and they're awaiting the courts to clear the way. The farm's owners are clinging to hope, waiting to see if the Supreme Court of Canada will agree to hear their appeal. If that leave isn't granted, the government could move in. And it's not just a farm. These birds, of course, are research animals. They're not for food. They're used in cutting-edge studies on immune response and antibody production related to COVID-19 and other infectious diseases. If they're killed, that research dies with them too. Now, here's the irony that should make every so-called science-based policymaker in Ottawa blush. Around the world, scientists are genetically modifying chickens to make them more like ostriches. In the UK, researchers engineered chickens with synthetic decoy RNA that tricks the flu virus into binding to fake genetic material so the virus can't reproduce. The result? Those chickens might get infected, but they can't spread the virus. They're literally building lab-made birds that can do what these ostriches already do naturally: contract avian flu and then stop it dead in its tracks. And while scientists in London are tinkering in laboratories to make flu-resistant poultry, the CFIA here in Canada is marching into this farm to destroy 400 naturally flu-resistant ostriches, real-world proof of the same phenomenon. Studies have shown that ostriches produce cross-reactive neutralizing antibodies. immune proteins capable of recognizing multiple flu strains, including pandemic H1N1. Ostriches have been used in antiviral research precisely because their immune systems are that adaptable, generating broad spectrum protection that even bioengineered chickens can't mimic. So when the Americans say ostriches deserve their own response plan, they're right. Nature already solved a problem that scientists are trying to fix in the lab. The only thing that hasn't evolved is the bureaucracy. If these birds are slaughtered, we won't just lose 400 animals. We'll lose decades of data, unique genetics, and living evidence that mass culls are not the only answer to avian disease. Meanwhile, the American Ostrich Association is pushing for testing and quarantine instead of panic. They're calling for policy grounded in biology, not blind obedience. But in Canada, it seems the government's motto is, when in doubt, kill everything. Now, you can follow this developing story and support our independent reporting right here in Edgewood at SaveTheOstriches.com, because this isn't about disease control anymore. It's about control, period. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. If Ottawa can silence farmers, destroy science, and then call it public health, then it's not just the ostriches under threat. It's every one of us who dares to question their authority. Visit SaveTheOstriches.com to learn more.